Yeah, how's it going?
It's going okay. How are you?
Bad day for Go, but at least everyone's having a good time. So,
Eh, and don't let chat fool you. I'm weak as all hell.
Baz
No.
is
So,
lighting it up. The chat.
Be Be Beas can don't trust anyone in chat. They don't know.
Uh,
Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look here. I don't necessarily like um the AI stuff personally. I think it's very hard and somewhat misleading. But I mean, it's always like a to each their own kind of thing. Oh, thank you, Kobe. Here, you get good sleep. Ashtaru. Son's going to bed. Sorry about that. So, um, from this position, I guess really, um, you can go ahead and you can hit the early 3-3
mm,
here. Um, Really though, you kind of start getting into a little bit of a situation because you're giving away such thickness that when you have to split and then take the two space base here, I think White's initial situation is fine, but realistically, this kind of starts becoming a little bit more problematic for you because you've got a good maybe like eight 8 to 11 points here in this bottom corner. You probably got overall maybe 20, I think. But now you're kind of needing to worry about this particular two space base. And then you're going to need to protect it. And if you keep jumping out, then White's going to get into some situational awareness to where they're really gaining. Their influence is very strong, and you don't really have any particular flow of the board.
mm.
Um, so usually when I take a look at that type of situation, then it comes down to the fact of is the initial 3-3 going to be a good idea here?
Yeah, looking at it now, I probably should just approach to R6. Or if I was gonna do a 3-3, it should have been the C3, I think.
Yeah, I think R6 and then backing off is perfectly fine. And even if they pincer and then you go into the 3-3, at least there's a little bit more Aji to mess around with, regardless of the way that White particularly wants to block. That I think is going to give better situational awareness for Black. It's more of an even game at this point because White, um, again, AI is not really going to care. I mean, its overall calculations and everything like that are far beyond humans, and that's why I tend to not want to go into the AI stuff because it's so easy to either misinterpret or it's always like, oh, it's just that one move if I could have found it, but it's kind of a bad way of getting into a habit because then you're always blaming that one move instead of trying to find an easier way out of situations.
Mm.
But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Oh, but let's see. So yeah, we got the additional thickness. And then this is a critical miscalculation by White. Again, they should be going for the outside,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Um, Playing down is quite interesting, really. This is I didn't catch most of this game. And then the peep. Sorry, I'm just trying to take a real fast look here. I should have reviewed the majority of this game up to begin with. everyone seems to be so all of these moves. It's just so incredibly messy at this point.
Hmm.
Um, Personally, white just connecting here is perfectly fine. Keep it very simple. I mean, black is still going to own an additional move anyway, one way or another. These, um, God, I don't use this place. OGS. Like these particular four stones are inconsequential. Again, white really shouldn't be terribly worried about it or anything like that. If anything, if they're gonna do this, they can just take the cut, and then black's going to be in a situation of, do they want to go out or do they just want to particularly take this stone? And again, white's not necessarily going to have to care. They can just keep building up from the outside. They can, again, take the side, or they can, here, sorry. Oh, where was I? They can take the side, or they can just take another large point here. Like all of this stuff that's happening at the bottom, it's it's really slow. It's missing the overall bigger flow of what should be going on for this game, because this stick isn't going to die by white. Black's perfectly fine. It's black that owes the additional moves down here anyway, so white's in a better element.
Hmm.
um let's see, moving forward, and I'm just going to give overall generalizations. I don't want to go too hard into reading
Yeah, no worries.
here. I try not to, because again, I think it, I mean, once you're starting to get more into the life and death stuff and everything like that, really, I think the more important thing is the broader strokes. You get those down first, get good directional play value out of it, and then you get better at the fine tuning of things later on.
Hmm.
Okay, so again, the turn. And then again with the three. Do you normally play very territorial?
For the most part, I mean, I'd kind of. I'm used. I guess I'm used to playing white more. I usually used to playing second. But yeah, in this game, I wanted to play territorial.
Okay.
I thought approaching C6 wouldn't be that great because there's not much to develop on the left side. So I thought just taking the corner would be fine.
Hmm. It's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, I could see a standpoint for white blocking this way, really, because at this point you're going to owe additional moves, and white is fairly fine, right? And then they can take a larger point
Hmm.
off to the side. I mean, they could deep dive this if they really truly want to. So this is a little bit different as far as direction of play is concerned. I'm not going to worry about the fact that they don't want to, the way they play their Joseki sequence for the 3-3 is kind of weird. And then we just start getting more and more into fights here. Um, so who do you think is ahead at this point?
I thought black was definitely leading in the balance of territory, and I thought it would be difficult for white to try and prove that its thickness was going to make points. That's what I thought. I thought I was pretty comfortable here.
So let's see. Let's say you have, let's be generous to you because I'm going to say you have about maybe 45 points, maybe. Or, or yeah, let's say about 45 points or something along those lines. Don't, I mean, 45 seems like a lot, but realistically, unless you're like getting into tremendously humongous fights where nothing dies and you're just fighting to live and everything like that, you're normally trying to aim for like between 65 and 75. So it's it's going to be a hard game because you legitimately don't have any real central potential here, like whatsoever. Like this is mainly white sphere of influence to play. And white already has him in along the lines of call me, and then the amount that they have put down in this lower left hand section and everything along those lines. White's I'm gonna say as far as solid points, yeah, white's behind. But as far as like if you consider the influence and the potential of making points, then white's to me ahead.
Hmm.
Um, so then I would say at this point, L17 is God, it's not bad, but it's a hard game for you to me. I don't know what chat thinks,
Hmm. It might
but
depend on levels too. Like I think at the single digit queue, I would assume most players would feel comfortable as black because white finds a harder time using these thicknesses if there's nothing to attack, right? But at
that's
a four down level,
that's
maybe it's different.
well, that's fair. But I mean, when you're thinking of overall improvement, I wouldn't sell yourself short. I mean, I wouldn't consider it like, hey, I'm only playing this particular rank, so I'm relying on said mistakes or them not particularly knowing how to utilize this, that, or everything in between. It's like these are good positional awareness areas to where if you do have the time, then you can really take a step back. Just take a solid minute and be like, if I'm if I'm playing like if I'm playing as white right now, where are white's major moves at this point? Where would white like to go?
Hmm. I'd say 016 is one of my biggest looking moves.
Yeah, 016 would probably be along the lines for helping build up for white.
Is
They're
this?
not afraid of giving you a few extra points here for being able to build up this central area into more solidity. They can gain some more points at the top, depending on which way you block or in this middle right hand side. But yeah, Skullducks. I mean, the conservativeness of black versus the potential of white is drastically um, kind of it's just harder to play from a conservative uh, viewpoint in this state. You always want to be mindful of the center potential and try to counteract it as best as you can versus just going all in on the territory. That way you because you can still have territory, but you don't want to get to a point where you're continuously having to fight your way out of it or out of your opponent's overall thickness, unless they have massive amount of weaknesses, which white really doesn't have at this point. They're fairly solid. The potential is in their court. I think that N17 is pretty dang bold here, really, as far as white is concerned. I mean, realistically, you could go ahead and shoulder hit here still if you want to. Um, as far as white is concerned, white could go super conservative. This is one of the points that I typically like to make as white, especially if I get kicked. I prefer making boxes. Making boxes, even at 6 and 7 dawn, is highly underrated. Um, Always looking for ways of continuously making boxes and then being able to limit. Because right now, white shape is very, very solid. And then black again has a problem. Like, let's say white does play J15 here. They gain a little bit of solidity. Where would you think about going here?
L15.
All 15?
Yeah, L15 jump.
Okay. So from L15's position, you have two additional problems. You have white again being able to trying to close off this box here. And then you have another issue to where if you get somewhat more of a central state here, you've got white blocking off this particular area. And all L15 did was just drop another stone, realistically.
My plan would have been to try and keep the top small for white, uh, to try and get in front of it. But yeah, I
No,
can
yeah,
see.
but again, if you take a look at the situation of 1 and 2 here,
Mhm.
you're trying to counteract two things at once when something's going to have to give. One way or another, white can still gain additional points.
Okay.
And the only thing that you're trying to play is the reduction game from this point, because what you're trying to settle off is that you had those about 45. So you've got about 50 points right here. And you're pretty much settled into the fact that your 50 points are going to be able to hold off anything that white gains, or
Hmm.
technically like around 45. So you're going to have to keep white from getting 45 points from this position. And that's a pretty large task, in my opinion. But that's just overall direction of play concept
Hmm.
theory. And it'll get easier as you continue on playing. It just really does take that time where you have to, again, take a step back at least 2 to 3 times when you feel like if you truly do have Sente, you knew you had Sente here. So, what can you truly do about this at this stage?
Mm. Well,
And it's hard, and it's hard.
yeah.
It's a very hard situation from this particular board.
I was gonna say, I guess if I wasn't planning for L17, then I might look at J15, the cap.
J15, huh? J15 is definitely a move. It definitely does take away White's potential for being able to build the box. I mean, overall, it's not. It's it feels more like a prep move, like you need to make that move in order to get in another move if White doesn't necessarily respond. But to be fair, White's going to respond in one way or another. They could either go uber conservative here, or they could just try taking like a larger move, um, just playing a two space base, or they could not really give a crap one way or another, because really it's black that's just got a lone stone there to try to figure out what to do with. I mean, shoot, even recapping it, again, you've still got a 2-box problem on the right and the left, and the top still has M17 for a 2-space base for white. But let's move past this point. I think we've hit up on there because I could go all day and all night, really, just off of potential concepts. Yeah, white's panicking when white didn't really need to panic. White was fine. And again, it's easy for them to do because you can look at as your skills improve, I mean, you're going to get less worried about 40, 45 points. Like really, if I have an opponent at, you know, when you're in the dawn level where your opponents are playing early 3-3s, I mean, you'll still have the 6 or 7 dawns doing that too, Skull. But really, I mean, it's kind of like a thank you, like, hey, thank you for only caring about 10 points and giving me all of this potential. Like, um, again, I kind of like what white's doing over here. They kind of like realize the fact that they need to make a box. I don't necessarily love the shape over here that they left again, just for this top group. But at least they tried to rectify themselves in a way. Um, this move is small for white, realistically. Like I would think about I would think about going bigger, bigger, broader, like take the solid, or um you could also try maybe taking a little bit more of a shape point up here, at least for white. Sorry. Um Again, for you, um again, this part of the game is just kind of getting tough. You're trying to really, all you're doing is trying to connect out and play the reduction game here, which I totally understand at this point for you. It just kind of stinks that it had to go that way here. Like realistically, I would need you to start looking into sector line type situations or finding a way to break in here. Maybe if white backs off, then you can try to get some points. Like maybe white wants to break this up, and then maybe you can like try to play it, like at least try to gain something while reducing white. I'm not exactly sure what all you can do, but something a little bit um more a dual purpose move. Because now all you're concerned about is killing white here, which unfortunately can't be. I do like the idea of the cut. I was kind of thinking that white may need to um yeah, a sector line usually doesn't fail. I would say when again when you're worried more about points, here's the thing for white, what they need to do is they need to come back and they need to defend the other particular cutting point in some way. Really, not worried about getting undercut because there's only going to be so much that black can do. But yeah, you at least somewhat came up to the realization that there was weakness in here and went after it because at this point you kind of have to. And then this part. So at this point here, because what were you thinking? You were saying the connect?
Yeah, doesn't that work? Um, I guess not. Yeah, it's dead, huh? I
Yep.
misread this. Once white played here, I didn't see this clamp works.
No, yeah, yeah. But yeah. So this would have been the easier out versus getting into the later on portion um the AI was talking about this.
Yeah, instead of
Yeah,
connecting
it's
P9.
yeah, because I wasn't even paying attention to that. That's not something that I would have really thought about and everything. It definitely does work, you know,
Mm-hmm.
being able to come over here and take advantage of that. But yeah, like again, it's the earlier it's the earlier things really because by this point then yeah, you're a-okay, you're good to go because then you definitely have the territorial advantage.
Yeah, I'm sad I misread this because I looked at it a few times. I even thought like if it doesn't work, I can push through with M10 and just like take the huge reduction in the sacrifice. But I totally misread this, which is just sad.
No, but I mean that's gonna happen.
Mm.
Um, it's it's one of those things where it's always definitely good to study reading, and it's definitely good to being able to. I hate to say it because everyone in chat knows that I hate Sumego, but yes, going through knowing your basic shapes, um, being able to do Sumego. I try to avoid the Sumego. I try to avoid the complicated reading because my line of my line of thinking is that I'm always a very solid and cautious player, but I am always mindful of what I would want to play as my opponent. Because if you keep that in mind, then you're going to be able to be more proactive versus reactive to your opponent's moves. You're going to be able to take better situational awareness, and that's going to save you from the overcomplication later on down the line. But then, yeah, I won't keep you any longer than what I already have. But then, yeah, after this whole situation failed, then White's pretty much up along the lines of 20 points or so,
Yeah,
really.
that's what the AI said.
There, yeah, there wasn't too much more that you could do from this area. I mean, it was definitely a good effort, and White definitely um, did make some mistakes. I like valuing opening versus end game personally.
Mm.
Um, I won't lie, uh, I was looking at this black group,
Hmm.
fearful that this would accidentally die
Yeah,
somehow.
I mean, I was thinking the L2 group could be killed, or the P5 group could be killed, or I can run out to the center. But there is definitely risk of it dying. I just knew that I was already losing, so I can't lose. I
No,
can lose harder, but I was all like, I can. I'm gonna losing anyway. So
no, yeah, I guess what I was overall fearing was that if for some reason White was going to try to get Sneaky McSneak Pants, you would have cared about these two stones down here being disconnected, or you would have tried to get into White center. Like this would technically be more of a gamble for White if White was behind or something along those lines and needed to come back and kill. So I'm actually more, I guess, fortunate on White's perspective. Um,
yeah, I was.
I mean, I'm not
Less than
necessarily
expecting.
happy about all of this crap, actually, yeah, if white's going to do anything, they should play over here, because this other group over the 3/3 invasion isn't going to die. That doesn't matter
Mm.
really. But at this point, technically, I mean, none of it none of it matters really as far as white's concerned. you know,
Yeah. Yeah, white
or I
just
mean, I
needs
guess
like a
even, or I
teal.
mean, even bigger move. I mean, white could still play Gote and just totally give absolutely no Fs at this point. But yeah,
But yeah, I was hyper focused or understanding that black was in a little trouble, but I felt like black had enough outs to be okay.
mm, yeah, but I would, I definitely say, I think along the lines of what I tell multiple people, really to sum up, is that going for points, good. Um, Early 3/3 without a particular plan or knowing exactly where to go for it is kind of not the best. Or
Mm.
also relying on what your opponent might do. Um, Sometimes that works. Like if you know your particular opponent is extremely passive or extremely territorial and they're always going to take the points, then yeah, you can use that to your advantage if you don't mind going for influence. And then yeah, if you're going for influence, um, as they say, if you're going for influence, always continue to go for influence. But yeah, I mean, that's basically all I got from my end. Sorry to keep you so long. Sometimes I
No, no,
talk quite a bit.
this was really helpful. I appreciate it. Just yeah, so even like just your one first part where you said going for the 3/3 at R3, yeah, it totally makes more sense to approach on the outside. It just helps me build and lowers white anyway, right? So hitting R6 just looks more useful. Um, I didn't evaluate uh, the the difference between the two 3/3s, and I think just approach from the outside is fine. It's much better. It's much easier game, I think, for black.
Yeah. I mean, even still, I mean, as far as the AI is concerned, you're not going wrong by any of these particular approaches on one side or the other, technically. But I mean, that's an AI perspective, and not, and it knows how it can play the game
Mhm.
through those particular sequences. If you're not necessarily as comfortable, I'd take a more simplistic route, or at least not put yourself into a position of getting stuck later on down the line. Give yourself more of an out. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah,
But
that's
thank you.
just my 2 cents.
No,
Yeah,
no, no. Thank you for the
absolutely.
review. Um,
Mhm.
all right. Do you prefer Bigsby or Peyton?
Uh, Peyton's fine. It's all
all
good.
right.
It's my last name, so.
All right. Thank you, Peyton. I appreciate it.